Yeah, what I've always really liked most is I had to ask what they're called formally, these transitional spaces. You know how when you go from the living room into the dining room, there's sort of an arch above, and they're all through the house. So you get the sense of making an entrance from one place to another instead of just, okay, now I'm here, now I'm there. Anyway, yeah, that's really the whole place except for the greenhouse. I mean, you're free to take a closer look, but I really don't know, in all honesty, if that's going to be salvageable as a greenhouse. So we should negotiate downwards in your favor there. I really appreciate the tentative offer. I do have to tell you, in California, the seller of a house sometimes is required to divulge some things about it that might affect whether you'd want to buy. In the case of this one, I don't even think it even technically meets that requirement, but I want to tell you anyway, just to be fair. So about 8 months ago, there was a rat issue. I think because of the flooding nearby, there was a dam they were rebuilding and some kind of water release. I started noticing, and right away I got an inspector in. Seemed like an easy enough thing to solve, but they weren't thorough enough, blah, blah, blah. Any kind of contractor, it's tough to trust. The next one I got, same thing. They told me, well, the first inspector didn't really grasp the layout of the house. But the second one couldn't keep the rats out either. They built a couple of panels behind the walls. It didn't work. So I wound up calling someone I saw on whatever app that is. I forget the name. Nextdoor. This guy calling himself the crevice captain. What he said he did was really get into every possible nook and tiny space inside your house, especially a really old one like this, because only then could you really figure out where drafts and mold and infestations are coming from. He was willing to get into places regular inspectors wouldn't even suspect were there. So he came over. This little guy with glasses, totally normal looking, just small, mild-mannered, didn't have any other employees. The crevice captain. I said, how did you get into this line of work? And he just looks at me like it's a strange question. And he says, I just thought it was interesting. What a weird answer, right? So off he goes. First, he literally goes into the bathroom here, and he sprays his skin and his clothes all over with some kind of antiseptic, because he's going to get his body into God knows where. He straps a light to his forehead. I hear him moving all around the house a whole day. And at the end of it, he's covered in dust and grime. And he shows me these videos he's taken. And my mind was blown. He'd wiggled into places a sane, normal human being just won't or can't. It just can't be done. Or so I thought. He was showing me, God, these empty pathways between the plaster. They run all the way from that corner over to that corner. Then this one vertical kind of cavity that goes up from the basement all the way to the attic that I showed you. He had this horrible, like, POV shot of him climbing up through there, crammed in. There can't be any good air in there. He found a piece of missing mortar. He got into some crawl space inside the foundation. On the video, it looks like it kind of snakes left and right for about 8 feet. He tried to get in there. That really was too small. Just so many hidden spaces. And he said it's like that in every old house. between the first and second floor, there are floor joists. Things can get inside them. I couldn't believe he got himself cut up on his neck because he found he was squeezing between the insulation upstairs to this space in the eaves, this opening that had just naturally happened over the decades, like a tiny little living room for insects. Spiders in there. He pushed his head in and he got bit by something. I was horrified. These videos, this different kind of darkness sort of hiding inside the house all around that I never knew about, everywhere. He couldn't even find them all the spaces that first day. He had to come back because he thought from the draft patterns that there may be some kind of small accidental tunnel behind the cabinets here in the kitchen. From just age and settling and water decay, and I don't know what else. He's standing there, it's filthy. Good thing he disinfected himself beforehand. Looked like he'd gone into a cave mouth. But with the scheduling, I had to go to work the next day. So I said, look, I'll leave the place open. Just come and do your thing, this thing of his. To him, it seemed like nothing unusual. I don't think he understood how strange he was. I got home from work and his car was in the driveway, but he didn't seem to be anywhere. I went all around yelling for him. It finally got ridiculous. I called him, no answer. An hour of this. I finally made dinner and just waited. And nothing. So I started all over again, all over the house, yelling for him. I finally ran out of places he could be. I went over to the neighbors. I went even into the woods, in the back of the yard. It got dark. I was freaking out. There was this one guy went into the ceiling of a cat cafe over in Picardy to fix some electrical problem, and he died up there. Shocked himself. It was hours before they suspected, so I didn't know what the possibilities were. I really got scared. I'm out in the driveway looking through the guy's glove compartment to maybe find some paper, someone else I can call. I realized I couldn't go to sleep that night, so I broke down and I called the police. I had to sound like a nut. And somebody came and he went through the same routine that I did. Then he checked out the car. He ran the plates. You could see he was like, what the hell can we do here? They had somebody go to the guy's apartment. He wasn't there. His neighbors didn't know him. 1 o'clock in the morning, there's 4 guys here looking for a guy who's either dead or unconscious somewhere. I was trying to remember the creepy places on the videos where they all were in the house, but that was hard. They had to finally give up. They couldn't find them all. They just could not find them. They couldn't assume he was still here somewhere. They couldn't assume he left. It was just... Anyway, I collapsed on the sofa finally, and dawn came. And he never showed up. He never showed up. Then you know what it is waiting to see if there's a smell. I had to do that while the cops were still asking questions somewhere else. Wait for the signs that there was a corpse inside my walls. Still had to go to work. It was pretty awful opening the front door night after night, bracing myself for, I don't know. I can't go into it all. I had to explain this to someone else who was interested in buying. It takes too much out of me. He never showed up. The crevice captain, John Bonhoffen. If you lived here in state, you'd probably have heard about it all. They did find, just because there's that old oil stain in the driveway, They were able to find a trace of a shoe print that didn't seem to line up with someone that small. And it definitely wasn't mine. And a cigarette lighter, too, in the grass, just off the driveway near his car, with his fingerprints on them. So there were some theories. Bonhoeffer, he was apparently, well, like 5 years ago, he'd been trying to buy some bad things on the internet from some bad people. So there was a chance that someone had maybe pulled up to the edge of the driveway, gotten out. There'd been some kind of altercation. Maybe they'd gotten him to come with them. Maybe it was by force. No way to know, really. None at all. Just wisps of fragments. But yeah, I just thought it's fair that you should know. They never found him. And I know he can't really be here, right? Unless somehow he is and there just was no smell. For whatever reason. I just can't stay here myself anymore. I gave it a chance. I can't stay. Having looked him in the eye and seen those videos, that whole unseen world. And then after he disappeared, sometimes I'd hear maybe something very small in the walls or behind the cabinets, shuffling or moving. And I could tell it was just little things. Or the rats. But when it was the middle of the night, there was even a time I was in the shower and I thought I smelled that disinfectant he'd put on himself. I really thought I did because it was so sharp and distinct and unusual. No, just my imagination. Anyway, there was one pest control place that tried some good steel mesh in some of the more obvious problem openings, and that actually worked. That plus the right poison to get the ones that were already here. You know, a female rat can have a litter every few weeks. You have to be fast. You have to be fast, and you have to be pitiless. Good advice for life, right? Yeah. Old house. Big old house. Just not for me.